Another week down the allotment and lots more growth. So the shallots have all started to come through. I'm thinking these might go out possibly today if we have time. Big job today, planting out some of the seed potatoes. Lots of sprouts coming out. So we've got ones on the top which have got a bit of green foliage. These do need to go out today, so I'll share that with you guys. For those of you who haven't watched the previous video, these have been sat on the windowsill. It's called chitting, in the sunshine, allowing the seed potatoes to go to sprout. So they send off these little tendrils here, and that's the start of the growth. It just gives them a head start when they get into the soil. We're going to load them up into a raised bed. More growth on the peas, and I think some of these broad beans, I don't want to risk putting them out because we have been getting frost still, so I might plant these up into a couple of pots, and we might just do them in containers this year, freeing up more space in the plot itself. The very first onion and garlic bed we put in is going to need a little bit of weeding today, just like I said in a previous video, just to keep on top of everything. It's a good idea to get the weeds while they're small and to not let them get established. And then last week we made the last of the 2 raised beds, and I think you'll agree the onions are already looking a lot happier. Some of the ones which hadn't even come up have started to show themselves. Plenty of manure and blood and bone in them beds, and the bushes have really come into their own now. We've got lots of growth across all of the bushes. The garlic bed and the mystery bulbs have settled in nicely into their bigger pots and put on some more healthy growth. We've had some rain and the wind's due to pick up again later, so I'm going to crack on and get these potatoes in before we get some rain. And then I've got some rose bushes which need some manure over the top, which we will get on and do towards the end. So let's get on with the potatoes. So the first thing we're going to want to do is put some soil conditioner in. And that's going to be some bone meal. And then we're going to add some of the well rotted manure. And then we're just going to dig the manure and the bone meal into the soil. So I understand that this isn't everybody's technique. Everyone has their own way of doing things. But one of the ways I like to do the potatoes when I do them in a raised bed is I like to make 2 troughs. So I dig out 2 troughs, so you're going to have potatoes in both sections, and repeat on this side. I dig them down, so I'll go down about that much on my hand from the top of the raised bed. We're going to put the potatoes in, stagger them between 2 or 3 in each section to give them plenty of room to grow. And then as the shoots come through the soil to help the roots establish, we then cover with some of the soil. Eventually we'll have plant growth come through the top. We'll have plant growth come through the top of the raised bed, and this will be all leveled out with the two lines of potatoes. And then as they grow further, we then get some well rotted manure, and then we actually pile it up. So eventually we'll end up with a crest or a hill of compost with the plants growing over the top. And then we basically place our chitted potatoes into the soil and cover. Being careful not to snap off or damage any of the sprouts. Rosie's come to see what we're doing. Do you want some potatoes? And then we only cover it, I don't know if it's easy to show on this camera, but we're only covering it so high, and then when we get some sprouts come through here, then we're going to cover it again and then just keep the process going so it builds up the plant and the root system, because obviously underground is where all the potatoes are in fact going to produce. And then we just make sure that they're well watered in. Just dug another load of manure, but I'm conscious of just showing that every time I come down here, so I skipped that bit today because you don't need to see a little montage of me digging horse poo. And I put it all over the rose beds down the bottom of the garden for the lady who lets me use the allotment. So that job's done. Potatoes are in, watered down. If you've got other ways of doing potatoes, I love to hear other people's advice and what they do. So do jump in the comments and let me know how you do it. That's the way I've done it and how I've had success. Just building up the compost and that over the top of it as each time the shoots come up. And I've had pretty decent success growing them in raised beds. Kind of contains them, know where they are. But it's good to get them in. So that's the first early's done. That's a bit more space on the windowsill and the kitchen for us to fill up. I'm just going to have a coffee. I'm a sweaty mess, even though it's been raining and it is quite muggy out here today. I've still worked up a bit of a sweat. And then we're going to plant up some broad beans. I'll just pour my coffee first before, I can't do coffee, pour coffee and talk. Oh, that's the one. So looking at the bottom of these, let's get one out. With the root cluster at the bottom, these are definitely ready to go either into bigger pots or outside, but I said already that I think we've got a couple of frosts coming. I just pulled that root pulled that out of the pot to show you the roots and just put loads of soil into my coffee, so I've just poured another one. I think we're going to plant them inside the greenhouse in some big pots which we've got ready to go. I'm probably going to put the peas in there as well, and then think about setting up a mesh system for the peas to grow up, and then we can take the shoots from them as and when, and then we'll plant the shallots out between the garlic rows, I think, today, and then that'll be us done here. And then we'll go home and I'll show you the rocket, which has just come on amazing, and I've actually been cutting it this week and using it in salads. I'm going to give up on the Japanese greens. So I bought those Japanese, for those of you who've watched a lot of my allotment stuff, I bought them as a cheap reduction item with the pot. I think I paid £1 for them, and I think the seeds are old. They germinated, but they're just yellow and they're not growing like I want them to. So I might just free up that space on the windowsill with something which is going to grow a bit better. Some chives. But as usual, time's got away with me. I am going to plant some spinach beets up as well. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop nattering now. I'm going to finish my coffee and then we're going to get that done. I'm very fortunate to have a lot of organic matter and the ability to keep growing things in pots. I've got a plentiful supply of pots, spare pots, and I've got lots of organic matter, so I can grow my broad beans in these pots and then transport them outside. I could get more pots in for tomatoes. I can just keep going with it and just take full advantage of all the different pots and compost and everything I've got, if that makes sense. But these definitely had outgrown where they were, so we get them in this rich organic matter. I'm doing 2 per pot. I could try and squeeze 3 in. I think I'll give them space for the roots to grow, and then we'll use canes to help them go up. And obviously when the risk of frost has disappeared, that's when we will move these out into the allotment itself. 2 more in here. I want to grow a lot of broad beans this season because I want to practice, ideally I want to practice preserving, and I think broad beans are probably a good way to start by drying them out. Obviously beans, peas, lentils and stuff like that, they're so good when it comes to nutrients and protein and calories, so I've got a lot of plans for the broad beans. But these are going to need a watering in as well. So here's the rocket I was talking about, which has come up really nice, and I just keep cutting bits off of it whenever I want to put it into a salad. I've got 2 tomatoes. One was actually looking sickly because there was 3 of them. One didn't look too healthy, so I've just gone down to 2 because I have got another load which we sowed last week in the little mini greenhouses, and then that pepper which has come on nicely, quite happy in its little pot. And here is the Japanese greens. I don't know why, but they look slightly greener on the camera, but honestly they don't look too great. I keep meaning to take the apple mint, which smells incredible, out of the tyres and just plant it into the ground along with the rest of my herbs. Got quite a bit of growth coming on the cherry tree which we planted, some growth on the blueberry bushes, and then the raspberry canes at the back there coming through, and some of the lavender, new lavender shoots coming up as well. Another thing I did notice is the strawberry plants are actually battling through where I dug them up, so I might actually leave them in and just let them surround this area, but we'll see as the season goes on. That's it for this week. Any tips, advice, recommendations, love them in the comments if you can. Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed that, and I hope to see you next Sunday for another allotment and garden growing update. Thanks for watching, see you soon.